A couple of months ago, I found a guy selling some books on OfferUp, and I reached out to the guy and asked him a couple of questions about the collection and about his asking price. And I felt like his asking price was a little too high for me. So I actually made him an offer that I thought was more reasonable and more in line with what he was actually selling. He didn't like my offer, and he actually countered at a higher price than what I was prepared to pay. And I thanked him for his time and actually walked away from the deal. And a few months after that, maybe 4 months, 5 months, something like that, I see that his items are still for sale. And I reach out to him and I make an offer again. Exact same offer that I made before. No response. Guy doesn't read it. He doesn't comment. There's nothing. He left me on read. Left me on read. So, okay, no big deal. No big deal. So I wait. I let it go another couple of months, 3 months, 4 months. And I noticed that the books are still available. So I send him a message. And then I waited. A week goes by. He responds. I ask if the price is negotiable. He says yes. I make him an offer. He accepts the offer. And now I am en route to actually pick up those books right now. Fingers crossed that the collection is actually what I expected it to be, based upon the photos and things like that. If not, we'll have to make some adjustments based upon what I'm seeing. But it's just one of those things that sometimes you will go after a deal or a book and it won't work out, and you have to be prepared to walk away from it. But in some cases, if you are prepared to walk away and you do, then sometimes things still work out. And in this case, it looks like it may actually work out in my favor, and that I'm able to actually pick up, I think, some cool books at a fair price for those books. So I'm actually sitting outside of a comic shop right now. I need to run in really quickly, drop some things off, pick some things up, and then I am going to get on the road, get on the hunt, and go pick up these books. Wish me luck. Oh my goodness. I am not a patient person. I showed up 15 minutes early. It is now 5 minutes after when the guy was supposed to be here. That is a total of 20 minutes that I've been waiting for this guy to show up for these books. I am not patient at all, but I am trying. I am trying to hang in there. So yeah, that was worth the wait. There is some goodness in these boxes. Come to find out, the guy was selling the books for his brother. His brother's friend owned a comic shop back in the day, and that's where the books came from. These books are in great shape, and we are talking multiple copies of issues. This is going to be fun to go through. Let me tell you, there are some awesome books in these boxes. There are basically 4 short boxes and, I don't know, some kind of random box sitting next to me. There's at least 50 copies of one book that is sitting next to me. Stay tuned. I am back in the comic book room and ready to show you guys the books that I recently picked up when I purchased a collection. Now, here's the backstory on this collection. I've given some of it already, but as I was sitting there talking with the guy, I learned some additional details that this collection actually belongs to his brother. His brother was friends with a guy that owned a comic shop, and that's how they actually came to have this collection, which tells me a lot because there were multiples of just about every single comic in the stack. Multiples of some good books and multiples of some not so good books. There were comics in here I didn't even know were comics, but that is what makes all of this so much fun. When you pick up a collection and you kind of go through it, you experience all types of things. I actually found, I think it was maybe 5 signed books in this collection. The guy didn't even disclose that there were signed books, but there definitely were a couple of signed ones in here. And I need to look a little bit deeper into them because I was doing more sorting and separating than deep investigation. So I need to spend a little more time to figure out who exactly signed some of the books that I was able to find in the boxes. But what I want to do is to show you guys some of the books that I picked up, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So this should be, I think, pretty interesting. So I have basically taken the roughly 4.5 short boxes and basically reduced it down to a short box. This short box contains a lot of the stuff that I want to look deeper into to see whether there are 9.8, 9.6 candidates in there, to see if there's things that I actually want to slab, see if there are things that I want to keep in the collection. So I've basically taken those 4.5 short boxes and consolidated it through some sorting and separating to this box that's sitting to my side. So there's actually some decent stuff in here. And again, it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. So there's some Dark Hawk in here, Dark Hawk number 5. I want to say that there were like 10 copies of just number 5 alone. So that's in here. There's some Silver Surfer stuff, Silver Surfer 68. There was a couple of copies of that. I think one of these is actually signed by someone. It could be Ron Lim, but I need to dig deeper. Here's 56, Silver Surfer. There was a healthy amount of Wolverine in here. Here's Wolverine 58. And I don't know if you guys can see this. This, I believe, is Terror Inc. from back in the day. This was a 90s guy I have never seen in a comic outside of his own number 1. But this one is signed, and I don't know whose signature that is. So I need to, again, look a little bit deeper into that. There's a Wolverine 50, really nice cover here. I've seen this cover, the die cut, several times, and each time the book is a little damaged. So they actually had a relatively clean copy here in this run. There are 50 or so copies of Silver Surfer 50 in here, and most of them are actually damaged. There's on the embossment here where his name is, it looks like during the printing process, something was stacked on top and some of the color was actually removed. But one of the things that you'll notice about many of these books that I'm actually showing is that the vast majority of them are actually newsstands. So I think that that's quite interesting, especially considering the video that I just did on newsstands versus direct. So here is T2. There's a lot of movie adaptation comics in here, as you'll see, but there is T1, T2 issue 1, 2, and 3, multiple copies of each one. And these books actually have some decent FMV, which is a little bit of a surprise to me, especially if you're talking about 9.8s. So I want to say in almost every case, there was probably at least 10 to 15 copies of the T2 books. There was also a healthy number of Batman versus Predator number 1. I want to say that there were probably 30 copies of this. And again, all newsstand. And there was a healthy number that actually appear to be in decent shape. So I've separated those out in this little box to my left. Or my right, sorry. There's one of my favorites from my childhood is this one right here, Wolverine 41. I actually have this one signed by, I think it was Mark Silvestri. He signed this book for me back in the 90s. So there were several copies of this book in here. What else do we have? Some more Silver Surfer here. We found one old comic just buried in the middle of basically 90s, 80s, and 90s books. There was Iron Man number 9. So that was definitely a really cool find that I did not expect in here. There was no disclosure that this book was in there, but Iron Man number 9. So I thought that was very cool. Here, speaking of good, bad, and ugly, here you go. Did you know that Prince had his own comic? Woo! So somebody did. There are 30 copies of Prince's comic. And what's crazy is that it actually has a healthy FMV when you're talking about, really, if I remember correctly, anything 9.0 and above actually has a healthy FMV if the book is CGC, which is crazy to me. But there was a healthy number of these books in here, and I am still flipping through the ones that I pulled to the side because there was a lot of them. But speaking of really good, when I saw this in the box when I was sorting, I had already, so what partly attracted me to this posting online was this book. I didn't know how many there were, but as I was going through the books and the boxes, I spotted this, and then I spotted it again and again and again and again and again. I spotted it 25 times. This is Batman 428. This is The Death of Robin. This is a Mike Mignola cover, A Death in the Family, one of my favorite Batman stories. Shout out to John for putting me onto this. There are a healthy number of these in the collection. And I've separated out a healthy number of them. So that was a very, very cool find. And I'm still sorting. There are a lot of those in here. There's some Green Lantern Emerald Dawn 2 #1s in here. Healthy stack of those. What is this? Here's another signed book. This is X Factor #7 annual. And this one's signed by someone named Peter. I'm not sure who Peter is, but a lot of times with signatures, it's very difficult to make out who actually signed them. But I can clearly read Peter, and it may actually say David as well. So again, another book that I need to dig into. Here's another signed book, Infinity Gauntlet #6, one of my favorite story arcs from the 90s. And I think that this is Ron Lim's signature here. I think it says Ron Lim 92. But it definitely a cool find in here. Here's what is this? T2 #1. Very cool cover right there featuring Arnold movie adaptation book. There's a healthy number, as I mentioned, of those books in the run. Speaking of healthy amounts, there were a ton of Ghost Rider #15. As a black cover, you know that they show wear, and these certainly showed a lot of wear. It is a newsstand, and I believe that this is the glow in the dark cover, so that's part of what makes that particular book really cool. This one I think is just gorgeous. This has to be one of the best Ghost Rider covers I have ever seen. This thing is striking. This is Ghost Rider #18, and I want to say that there were 22 copies of this particular book. It is really nice. And I went through the stack, and there are a healthy number of these newsstands without one spine tick, which I found really impressive. Again, because black covers show a lot of wear very easily, there is a huge stack of these things that actually look pretty darn good. So there was, as you would imagine, a lot of these in there. Again, newsstand. This is X-Men #1, the Jim Lee run on the X-Men. A lot of the #1s are in here. A lot of them were damaged. Speaking of damage, Deathlock #1. There were, I want to say, 28 copies of this book, and just about all of them were damaged. There was, looked like they had been exposed to moisture or something like that, and this UP symbol was actually discolored on the vast majority of them. I'm guessing that whatever infiltrated the box actually infiltrated on that left side. So this is a book that I spotted. And I've never seen this book before. I've never even heard of this character. It is Hell's Angel, co-starring the X-Men, and it looks like it is a Marvel UK book. So if you are across the pond and you have some familiarity with this, let me know. There was only one copy of this in the entire thing, and it was the only UK book as well. So you can see here, pull the sticker off. It says UK right up here in the corner. So this is these stickers are their stickers to kind of denote how many copies there were of something. So, but that's in there. They had my jam. They had my jam. Starjammers, Corsair. Back in the day, the father of Havoc and Scott Summers. So I actually have had this book in my collection since I was a kid because I was into the Starjammers back in the day. And then I also found #2. I never had #2, so I'm very pleased to have found copies 1 and 2. Some more Silver Surfer stuff in here. Here is 57, cool book there, 57 right there. There's some more newsstand from X-Men. Those are very cool. And a lot of the ones that I'm actually showing you are the nicer ones. I've separated out many of the ones that weren't in great shape. So this is again a #1 a newsstand. That's part of what really attracted me to this collection, was the newsstands for the X-Men, because I know how hard it is to come by those. And for my own collection, I have all the directs, but the newsstand was something I had never seen up until several months ago. And Whitewell Comics actually sent me one as an AOK so that I could have one in my collection. And that's part of the reason, again, why I went after this, because I just thought it was a cool thing to have. So, let me show you some of the ugly. I've shown you some ugly. I want to show you some more ugly. An American Tale. Fievel Goes West. Remember Fievel from back in the day? There were 20 copies of Fievel, #1. Oh man, I don't know if you guys remember this. Darkman. Here is Darkman #1. There's, I think, like 10 copies of this in there. No, there may be more than that. Again, I never knew that this thing existed. This sensational issue #1. New Kids on the Block #1. Look at these guys. It's a newsstand. New Kids on the Block. The things that you find in collections. And there was a healthy number of these. Arachnophobia, the official movie adaptation. Yeah, it's a cool cover. It really is a cool cover. 8 legs, 2 fangs, and an attitude. Definitely some cool stuff. There was also, there was Married with Children in there. I'm trying to think of the more obscure titles. There was some Bugs Bunny in there. And there was one other really obscure title. But again, this is all the fun of buying a collection and being able to go through it. Sometimes you find some good stuff, sometimes you find some not so good stuff, but that's all part of the fun. So people kind of always ask me about price for things, so I want to kind of allude to that just a little bit. I paid about $1 a book, which isn't really bad considering what I was able to pick up and hopefully what I'm able to kind of hang on to. So $1 per book actually isn't a bad price for an entire collection. So there you have it. That is my haul. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And certainly if you need to reach out to me, feel free to do so at Regie Collects on Instagram and reggiecollects@gmail.com. Take care.